The world was largely peaceful before a certain dude by the name of Gavrilo Princip on June 28th, 1914 decided to assassinate another gentleman, a royalty, by the name of Franz Ferdinand. Now, when this happened, it triggered a war, what came to be known as the First World War. This war started in on July 28th, 1914, and ended in November 11th, 1918. Those were 4 years of bloodletting, countries going against each other, European countries massacring each other, and by the end of it all, 17 million people lay dead. Now, to bring that to perspective, think about it. A country like Kenya has a total population of about 55 million. So if 17 million people were to die, that would have been like 30%. So every third person you know would be dead. Just as an example, 17 million people are a lot of people. They had died by November 11th, 1918, end of World War I. But that is not why I'm doing this video. I am doing this video because the resultant of World War I have significant impact on us today. Significant. But let me start from here. World War I was caused by, I can just classify them as 4 things. Number 1, the militarization of Germany and Britain and England and other European nations. Each of them felt threatened. Each of these countries felt threatened. Germany was coming up very strongly and they were building ships and doing military bases all over. And therefore, the build-up of the military caused a lot of tension between the countries surrounding Germany and including England. And there was also an ideology of that conflicts can be solved by wars, that wars were an end to conflicts. So that meant that these countries, they kept building militarily. So that was one of the causes. Number 2 was the alliances that were formed because of this threat. So each of these countries felt threatened. So there was, like, for example, the number 1 alliance, that was the Triple Alliance. That was Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. And then there was the Triple Entente. That was France, Russia, and Britain or England. So these countries, these alliances meant that if one of the countries was threatened by either of the enemies, immediately the other countries would support that country. They would come in and support that country in that war. And then the number 3 was imperialism. This is the time that countries were colonizing Africa, Asia. They were all over in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. They were colonizing Congo, all over. They were doing all these terrible things that they were doing at that particular period. So, and Germany was coming up at that moment. They were also trying to colonize their outside of their domain of Europe. So they were rushing to colonize as well. So there was imperialism. Sounds familiar? Just like the African rush that is happening right now, or the European countries, or the American countries. America, America and China. They're all moving to Africa. Feels kind of the same. And then there was a feeling of nationalism. People kind of felt that nationalism. I'm a German, I'm a French, I am a English, whatever. There was that. So, but these factors really did cause the World War I. But the event that triggered it, because there has always to be a catalyst that triggers these tensions that have been there over time, was the assassination of that gentleman called Franz Ferdinand by a Bosnian Serb called Gavrilo Princip, in June 28th, 1914. Because after that assassination, all hell broke loose. It was all systems go. Ripple effect fight, including Germans accused France of wanting to attack them, so they attacked. So they attacked the Britain. There was a lot of chaos that followed after that. So, but eventually it came to an end in 1918, November 11th, 1918. But the effects of that, because of that war, there was a new world order. The world was reorganized in the way trade is done, in the way the globe is governed. The time came in the rise of the Germans because they felt humiliated, and other countries that were coming up like the USA and all that. Because what World War One did, it brought out, USA came out of it as they never participated, but it came out of it as an economic powerhouse. Now people are damaged and all that, so they came in to try and rebuild, to help the European rebuild, the West European to rebuild and all that. But of course came in Adolf Hitler and everything else that happened around that time, and World War II happened. And when it happened, of course, now it was even of a bigger magnitude, and there was a lot of chaos all over the world. But eventually in 1945, this also ended. And when it ended, these were the effects of World War II. Yeah. Germany, as a country, as an economy, was devastated. Yeah. And it saw the Western countries experience a lot of damage. A lot of damage happened. Towns were decimated. People were killed. There was a lot of chaos. But people needed to come up again. So what happened? Who are the countries that won? Or rather, who is the dominant country that remained static? USA. So what happened is this. Between 1945 and 1970, the Western countries experienced rapid economic growth, including the USA as well. So USA became the world's largest economy and a global lender. So they would lend to Western Europe, Eastern, whoever was singing their tune. Japan rebuilt rapidly and became a major industrial power. Yeah. But more importantly, the Marshall Plan by the USA of 13 billion US dollars helped rebuild the Western European economies. So you see, US is becoming the lender now. Also, in 1944, there was the Bretton Woods Conference that brought about the IMF, International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank. IMF's work was to stabilize currencies and promote industrialization, basically. While the World Bank, on the other side, was to promote reconstruction and development projects, was to lend countries towards that. So that happened. So, and also the other thing that happened that is significant today is that there was the fixed exchange rate system that was developed, which established the USD as and pegged on gold. So USD now became the dominant currency in the world. And of course, by 1995, this had evolved to World Trade Organization. Things were happening, but they were all revolving around the dominant country, that is the USA. So, of course, USA helped rebuild West nations, and Bretton Woods institutions came to help do this work. Now, by the end of it all, the US dollar became the world's reserve currency, and USA was holding 2/3 of the world's gold reserve. 2/3 by the end of it all. By 1947, they had the most. So, because of this, two economic blocks emerged, the West and the East. The West was the open market, private enterprise, of course, domineered, centered around the USA. USA was the big man. And the East, which had more central planning and state-owned industries. Yeah. So, of course, now that was now the East European and Japan and China. They were on this block. And this brought about what we call the Cold War. Yeah. So Africa was left in the cold, literally, because now African countries had to align, either to be in the West, to be in the West, the USA and the Allies, or to be in the East, Russia and the Allies. Yeah. So the Cold War was happening. You had to align, and it was not very pleasant. Of course, the other significant thing that happened after that was the end or the beginning of the end of the Cold World War. I don't know why I'm calling it Cold World War, but it's a Cold War anyway. The Cold War, which happened in 1989. So the other significant thing that happened in the year 1989 was critical things happened, as in the world was changing again. There was a new world order being established. Events that happened. Number one, the fall of the Berlin Wall. That was in November 9th, 1989. The fall of the Berlin Wall meant that Germany, let me just put it this way, East European nations and the West European nations now could not be divided by that structure, which kind of divided ideological thinking. Doesn't make sense. A wall had two ideologies, one free, the other one centralized. Anyway, the Berlin Wall, the fall of that happened. So the fall of communism regimes in Eastern Europe started happening. So, of course, the grip of the Soviet Union lessened, and now we had Russia being what it is now, and other communist countries, and many countries started going to the free world. In the same year, there was the massacre that happened in Beijing on June 4th, 1989. That was called the China Tiananmen Square Massacre, where over 1,000 students were slain. They were slain. They wanted it was a pro-democracy protest. So while the Eastern European nations were embracing democracy and the Western ideologies, and the governments were eased on it, in China, on the other hand, they came down on the protesters and the people that were pushing that agenda with an iron hammer, knocked them. So anyway, what happened in 1989, there was a global economic realignment. Yeah. So the world moved towards democracy and global capitalization. So capitalism became the most admired thing. So within all this, USA was playing the dominant bulldog. So ideas from the USA were being embraced, including even the European unions. They had to align with the USA. African countries had to align with the USA. Asia had to align with the USA, or you go the China way, communism way, which is China now and North Korea. I don't know which other ones, probably Russia, and all those kind of things. So, but now in 1989, this all changed. And what I want to point out is that in all this hula baloo that was happening, Africa was just a spectator, a follower. How sad can it be that Africa was just following? They were just like, west, east. They didn't know what to do. They were just followers. This was all happening. So since 1989, things have been happening. A lot has been happening. And things have started to change now again. Now we have a new world order that is emerging. Yeah. The world is now transitioning. This is the third, I would call it like the third world order that is happening. The world is transitioning to post-COVID, post-Cold World War, post-Cold War, unipolar era, which was dominated by the USA, to a more multipolar era. So there are new rising powers that are coming on board. China, India, Russia, call them the BRICS. Regional powers like Turkey, Brazil, Iran, Saudi Arabia, they're looking for autonomy. Africa is rising. Again, this time round, Africa is not going to be left behind. It's not going to be a spectator. It has to be at the middle of it. There is the weakening of the global institutions, that is the UN, World Trade Organizations, IMF, World Bank. Ideologically, people are changing. People are thinking differently. They are not following blindly. They are asking questions. They are going boldly into their own direction. There's a lot of global South assertiveness. The global South, whatever you call the global South. That is where Africa comes in, asserting, saying, no, you cannot just be loading on us. You are just loading on us, your ideologies and what you think. No, we are saying no. So a lot of global assertiveness is happening. A lot of global South assertiveness. And of course, there is the AI revolution and the disruption, the COVID-19 supply chain disruption that happened. So now China is not at the center of supply chain, supplying to everyone. So now people are going to other places, India. Oh, we can also supply this. We can also supply this. In all this that is aligning themselves to today, that is happening today, Africa cannot be a spectator in this. And I'm glad we are not. Yeah. That is why, if you look carefully, there has been an influx of Western leaders, Western country leaders coming to Africa because they want to, they feel like they have lost the grip to countries like Kenya. People who have never visited Kenya, presidents who have never visited Kenya, now they are visiting Kenya. To do what? I wonder. You keep wondering. It's because Kenya is critical. Remember, Africa, the cross. It's North Africa, it's South Africa. It's the East, it's the West. So North, Egypt, South Africa, East, Kenya, West, Nigeria. The cross, that is the Africa. So if you want to enter into Africa, which is the emerging market, which will be the biggest market ever in the coming few years, then you need to be in those four corners of the continent. So, and power is shifting from west to east. It has already done that actually. And now from the north to the south. Now the more powerful countries that will emerge will be from the south. European nations are now becoming obsolete, apart from having good infrastructure and all that. Ideologically, nothing more. So the point I want to bring home is that in the New World Order, Africa is not ignorable. Is a word like that. You cannot ignore Africa. It is not a spectator. It is at the center of it. And Africa will have the biggest market. It will have the biggest labor provision, the biggest in the world. Africa is at the center of it. It can no longer be ignored. All we need now is to have the African nations come together and form a formidable force. Now they can negotiate as one with the European bloc, with USA, with China, with India, with any other. Economically speaking, Africa is the best place, is best placed to be the world economic power within the next few years. I hope that history that I've given you shows you how the world has changed over time. 1918, the world changed. There was a new order, global order. 1945, the world changed. 1989, the world changed. 2002, coming forward, the world is changing. It is changing already. Now we're in 2020. Things have changed completely, and they'll continue changing. All we need to do is place ourselves in the right position and make sure we are the influencers and not the influenced. Thank you so much. My name is Kishuri Rungu. Thank you for joining me. If you've not subscribed to this channel, please go ahead and subscribe. Hit the like button. Share this content with many other people around you who would like to know about the development of what is happening currently, after what is happening currently. And I hope to see you in my next video. Adios, Africa Rising. See ya.